What's going on, everyone? We have some very crazy things to address in tonight's video. We are seeing something in the market right now that we have only seen 2 other times in history, and the last time this happened, there were some of the craziest moves and just price action in the market in a long time. You guys better watch to the end of today's video. We have some crazy stuff to talk about. But Tom, even looking at the market today, the SPY held up in a pretty good way. We actually saw some decent price action. So I think we're going to have a week full of opportunities. So with that being said, Tom, let's jump right into today's episode.
Yeah, we had a great move out of the S&P 500 today, and some stocks did very, very well. Specifically, some of these growth stocks, like Roku was one of them that really blew my mind, running up 11%. Boeing had a decent move midday too. But whenever you go look at some of the bigger stocks out there, like Apple, Microsoft, stocks like that, they actually had some pretty bad moves, especially early on today. Some of them recovered up end of day, which was nice, but I think this really has to do with the rebalancing going on right now. And Mike, we're seeing a rebalancing. We have not seen this since May of 2011. And I think that rebalancing is going to be so important for the stock market. And for anybody who's curious what rebalancing is, everything has a weighting, right? So if we actually go ahead and we look at the what Wells Fargo is looking at, these stocks have the biggest weighting right now in the Nasdaq. Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, Amazon, Tesla, Meta, Alphabet, which is Google. Those stocks are going to be downsized, and those weightings are going to be cut down a little bit to allow for more diversity to come in with stuff like Starbucks, Bookings, Intuitive Surgical, ADP. So there's a lot of different stocks that will gain weightings. There's a lot of stocks that are also going to lose their weighting, and it's going to be huge. And Mike, the thing that I saw that really sparked my interest is if we go out to a SPY daily chart, or more specifically, if we go out to an SPX daily chart, and we go all the way back to when this rebalancing happened in 2011, it actually happened on May 2nd. And what's very interesting to me is that this ended up being the literal high candle for that year of 2011 was the day that rebalancing started. Now, I will say if you go to the Nasdaq, it actually recovered up and kind of broke highs there momentarily before coming back. But it's interesting that that is right around the high, and we're going to be having this rebalancing come in. And you know what? Look at how overextended stocks were. This is almost like mimicking what's going on in the market right now.
It's crazy. So the main thing you need to know is that not all stocks are created equally in the stock market. For example, a company like Apple or even Microsoft will have a lot more influence in the market directly than basically any other company out there, right? And especially the smaller ones. But the thing is that you could say the big dogs in the market right now, like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, and Tesla, have so much of what we'll call, they have too much power, right? They have too much weight allocated to them, and that kind of brings in a lot of risk to the market, because if those tech stocks fall, trillions of dollars would just be lost from the index falling or QQQ falling. So it's it's normal to see rebalancings every quarter, but what we're seeing now is a special rebalancing that they have to do basically because the diversity in the market is very low right now. And, it's not something you see very often. Like Tom said, the most recent one was in May 2011, and the one before that was in 1998 in December.
Yeah, and that's huge. And actually, if we go back to 1998, that's another crazy time, because what was right after 1998, we ended up going up a little bit more, obviously, but then we had that dot-com bubble and things started crashing down. And now we're talking about rebalancing here, and this is obviously, the Nasdaq, right? I keep bringing up SPX because I can go back in the past and it looks a little bit better. But if we actually look at the Nasdaq itself, what's interesting to me, Mike, is this almost reminds me of Berkshire Hathaway or something like that, changing up their fund in a way. It's almost like them cutting certain stocks and giving other stocks, buying more shares on them. Now, I know that's not exactly what's going on, but with stocks being so overextended right now, I think that what you said was very, very important, because if these big tech stocks come down, it could really crash the overall market right now. So if they get those weightings a little bit better, and then the market crashes, then we might not see as steep of a pullback, which will be better for the overall market. So I think that's kind of interesting, and I thought that was a really good thought by you, Mike.
Absolutely, thank you. But like you mentioned with that trading view data with Wells Fargo just a couple minutes ago, for what people actually care about is like, how is this whole event going to be an opportunity? And essentially what we're going to see over the coming weeks, specifically like, what is it, that Monday, July 24th, I believe, is when everything fully goes into effect. Yes, Monday, July 24th, we're just going to see a surge of selling pressure in some areas of the market, especially big tech stocks, and we're going to see a lot of buying pressure in other areas of the market. The specific stocks that are going to see that buying pressure has not been 100% decided yet, but some of the stocks that are expected to see some of this newfound money are stocks like Starbucks and, Gilead and stocks like Tom mentioned a couple minutes ago. So over the next couple weeks, just keep in mind that the market will be different than what it has been like. So I know that, Nvidia and Apple have been money printers all year long, but that could start to change. And, that doesn't mean the market itself has to crash, because as long as like other areas of the market are popping up, SPY can actually keep this, keep this train going.
Yeah, it really can, and that's what's really cool about it, because I know that in the S&P 500, there's a lot more diversity. You have healthcare stocks like that making it up, and I always think it's interesting just to see the weightings between the big stocks in these different sectors. Like I know United Health is one of the bigger weighted stocks in the S&P 500 too, and that's a healthcare stock which has nothing to do with tech, and that could move on its own. And then obviously there's like airlines, cruise lines. There's a bunch of them in there in different sectors, and that's what I love about it. Whereas Nasdaq is mainly all tech, which can be good. We all love tech, but whenever tech pulls back, then it's going to get a little bit more bloody, you might think.
No doubt. And speaking of blood, U.S. bankruptcies are still surging. So I know we talked about this quite a bit over the past couple weeks. And essentially what we could see here is U.S. business failures are piling up at the fastest pace since 2010. So that's obviously not a good sign to see, and it just adds another risk to this crazy economy right now.
Yeah, it really does. And I will say, there is some sources here and some notes saying it is specific companies, but it says companies covered by the S&P, which are probably some of the better companies out there. So to see this surging like this is pretty bad. As we all know, bankruptcies are never good. Whenever you talk about bad times in the economy, that's one of the biggest things everyone talks about. Like 2020, look at the bankruptcies go up there. 2008, 2009, 2010, those bankruptcies were insane. So I definitely think that's a good metric to look at right now. And as we know, the feds have been trying to cause stuff like this to happen in a way. So it looks like it's starting to work a little bit. And I can't believe that they're actually going to be maybe raising rates again at the end of this month. So we'll have to see what happens, but it's going to be crazy. And talking about rates, Mike, we even have that inflation data tomorrow too.
Uh-oh, Tom. The big inflation data. This is arguably one of the most important, economic events you can get. Of course, when Jerome Powell speaks with interest rate decisions, that's, the best we get. But, between inflation data and some big earnings, it's that's a market-moving catalyst. So, what are the expectations? What do we need to know? What's happening tomorrow?
Yeah, so what's crazy is with the inflation rate year over year, the consensus and forecast are coming in around 3.1 to 3.2%. On the previous number, we came in at 4%. They're actually projecting a huge drop here. As we know, the feds have said it time and time again. They're trying to get those rates down towards their 2% goal. I don't know about you, Mike. Why are they going to be raising rates at the end of July with us getting down to 3% already? We're getting honestly very, very low at this point. Now, there's some parts of the economy like job numbers and stuff like that the feds see, and it still worries them a little bit. But I see this inflation rate dropping like this, and if we do come in this low, I would think that has to be a positive thing for the market, because if we come in at 3%, around 3% or something, that shows a significant drop. And if we go to the year-over-year chart, Mike, I mean, man, we've been having steady declines, and recently it's been starting to fall even more rapidly. So I like it. I think that it could be good for the market, But then again, if it comes in negative, oh boy, we all know what can happen.
Uh-oh. Not good. So, yeah, like Tom said, I mean, they're expecting inflation to have come down quite a bit. But, let's say inflation comes in hot tomorrow, that can definitely change things in the market in a bad way. And Tom, as we've all seen before, sometimes we have good data. Like, let's say we could see inflation fall, but sometimes you even still see the market fall with that. So it's like the biggest thing with these types of events is you have to go into the market with an open mind. And a lot of it, especially if you're into short-term trading, you have to ride that momentum and you have to take it day by day because the market does crazy shit sometimes. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense and you have to be able to adapt. So going into tomorrow, the biggest thing I can say is have an open mind, be ready to adapt, and be ready for volatility. I think if you have those three things, tomorrow will be a good day.
Yeah, and we saw those job numbers come in last week, and the numbers were actually good. Like, it showed that the economy was adding a ton of private sector jobs, which is, you would think, great, right? But it all depends how the market reacts to it. And they reacted negatively because of obviously everything that happens with the feds, and they don't want those job numbers to go up. So it all depends on the way the market reacts. And I think that was a good point, Mike. You got to have an open mind. You have to be adaptable. And I know the SPY is crucial right now, Mike. Like, we've been following a key trend line to the upside. On an hourly chart, it looks even better, but we're like right at the top now of this too, creating like a bit of a wedge. So I like this. If we end up running above 444 tomorrow, that could be pretty good. It's a nice upper resistance. But then again, if we start falling out of this wedge, I think it could get a little bit bloody. For everybody out there who follows these types of patterns, the SPY has been really running up lately, and it's been one of my favorite things to cover here the past couple weeks.
Yep, there we go. Well, speaking of SPY, Tom, what are the most important levels for tomorrow to the upside and the downside? We could definitely use them ahead of this inflation data.
Yeah, so I just said 444. That's huge to the upside. That's going to be big. Now, to the downside, I'm not even going to look at any specific levels, to be honest. I'll obviously be watching some supports, but what I'll mainly be looking for is a drop under this trend line, and I want to see something significant. Like if we go and we look on Monday morning, right? Like we dropped under it, but it was all mainly pre-market, then like right it open, we were right back at it. Didn't really count as like a big breakdown or anything like that. We need to see some good, solid selling pressure like we saw last week with those jobs numbers. If we see something like this come in and we finally break down here, then that's going to be the way to go to the downside. So it might be more of like a feeling out, that type of play. You could use 440 as a pretty big level if you want to. That's actually pretty good too. But 444 and 440 would be the two I had to give. But like I said, it's important to really gauge the price action in the morning as well. Don't just, get in because it broke 444. Like you have to obviously gauge it like at open and everything like that as well.
Alrighty. Well, with that being said, let's jump right into some of the best setups for tomorrow. One stock that really caught my eye today is Upwork. So this stock does not get a ton of the hype like, a Tesla or an Nvidia or stuff like that, and rightfully so, of course. But this stock is like what I guess I'll call it like it's an under the radar type stock. It has some great moves. Like today it was up 12.5%, but it doesn't have that like, hype / meme ability to it. But either way, this stock is significantly beaten down right now. Right now, it's lingering right around, you could say, $10. It has highs of around $65 a share that it touched multiple times in 2021. It has some good momentum right now. And I think this stock has the potential to run to the upside for multiple days or weeks, assuming the market itself doesn't crash. But besides that, the setup's great. The stock's very oversold. The momentum's great in the short term, and it has a nice history of having some multi-week, multi-day long moves.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this one actually a couple weeks ago, and we drew out some nice like stop loss levels on here. We drew out some nice areas to maybe take profits up there. And, if you guys were grabbing some shares or some call options during this, time of consolidation, man, the past couple days would have been great for you. So, yeah, I like it too, Mike. Upwork, I know that it's one of those stocks that, we really like to hit on. It has some good moves sometimes. And I'm actually going to go with the stock, Mike, I am very, very surprised you did not have on your list today, which is Alibaba. This stock really recovered up. It's sitting right around resistance. If it breaks above, it had a high of day this morning. I wanted to say 92. It did have a high of day this morning around like 92.30. So if we can break that, maybe look for some calls. It's been consolidating here, but man, Mike, I know these China stocks, while you were gone the past couple days, they've been exploding.
Oh, big time. All right, with the next one, we have CCJ, which is actually a uranium stock. It had some great movement recently, and it's just like slowly grinding higher. I like this one. Realistically, it'll probably be best for like a couple day long hold. This stock, it moves with the market, but at times it also just does whatever it wants. So I do like this one for some upside movement. I will say there is some decent resistance around like that $32 level, but it's nothing like too overwhelming. So I would not be surprised if it ended up retesting 32 and then eventually like 32.30 and then 33.
Yeah, and I really like it here. It's been like channeling for a long time around this area, and we're starting to get back to the high here. Maybe we'll finally get a nice break. So CCJ is one of those uranium stocks that does, like you said, kind of whatever it wants in a lot of ways. So I do like it in that sense. And with my second play, I'm actually going to go with a big, I guess, Bitcoin stock, Mike. Coinbase here. It's hard to pick between Mara, Riot, Coinbase. I had to go with Coinbase, though. 9.78% to the upside again today. Yesterday, we had that crazy bank like chartered something. I don't even know who it is. It was like an insane, can't even believe they came out and said it, to be honest, that Bitcoin would be at like 120,000 by the end of next year and over 50,000 by the end of this year. And with the volatility coming in lately, they might be right. I mean, I'm not saying they are, but I'm keeping these stocks on watch. A lot of volatility coming in. For day trades, they are awesome. Like, look at that move today at open with Coinbase. That was amazing. Now, I will say Mara didn't have the same type of momentum, but still, great movement throughout the day, too.
Awesome, awesome. Well, it is now time for the momentum plays. And with the first one, we have Apple with a rebalancing put play. So to the downside, Tom.
Yeah, 187. Nice low down here. It's almost double bottoming right there. I think if we get back under 187, go ahead and look for some puts. That would be a pretty good level to break down below.
All right, with the next one, we have NVIDIA also to the downside.
Yeah, another rebalancing one. Let's go ahead and make them break under 420. That's Elon Musk's favorite number. And I do have to throw something out here with this one. They are also on a key trend line. If they fall under this number tomorrow, they will be breaking out of that wedge to the downside.
And then with the last one, we have Netflix, and we need both directions on this one.
NFLX, yeah, they fell off a lot, but really recovered here. So in the short term, if they can break above 442, go ahead and look at some calls to the upside. That's right around recent resistance there. Now, on the other side of things, if they fall under 436, then maybe look at puts. You can see that there was a nice little pullback, and we bounced right off 436 there midday.
Awesome. So we have that downside level for Netflix. If it breaks below that, we're watching it for puts. We have the upside level as well. If it breaks above that, we're watching it for calls. And then don't forget about the downside levels on NVIDIA and Apple as well. If they break below those, we're watching them for puts. But it is now time for the big money $940,000 trade of the day. And we are looking at a, we'll call suboptimal social media company, Pinterest, Pins. And essentially someone dumped $940,000 into the 29 strike calls that expire on August 4th of 2023. It's a short-term expiration. These call options are right at the money, which is good to see. Pinterest stock has been climbing non-stop over like the past 2 months or so, from $21 to basically $29. It's moving with some power. The short-term price action's great. I think, even though I don't necessarily love this company, I'm not like the biggest Pinterest fan, you can say. But, that doesn't mean their stock doesn't mean it's a bad setup. So ideally in this situation, I would like to see a break above like $29.88. You can even just round up and call it $30. That is the yearly high. It actually made that in what was their earnings report on like in after hours or in after hours. on April 27th. So just watch for a break of, let's call it $29.88 or $30, and I think it could be good.
Yeah, I do too. That's a big level there, right around 29 to 30. That is a big resistance. I've been watching this one for a while. I've had that resistance posted on the chart for a long time, so I'll definitely be keeping an eye on it as well. Like you said, that breakdown with earnings in April was pretty rough. Let's hope the next earnings report goes a little bit better, but I'll really be watching for that break. I think that following this play with the calls could be pretty good too. It's a shorter term expiration, and I like that they have about a month left on this, so that if you do buy it, you can hold it for a few days. You know, like you're not trading a weekly that's going to decay in 1 or 2 days. You know, it's going to at least last a little bit.
Exactly. So good stuff there. But Tom, for tomorrow, we have some huge inflation data coming out. We have some interesting market dynamics changing behind the scenes with all of this rebalancing news. And I think the biggest thing, like I said a couple times already, is go into the market tomorrow with an open mind, be ready to adapt, be prepared for volatility, crucial inflation data set to come out, and if you do those three things, I think tomorrow will be a great day.
Yeah, I do too. That inflation data is going to be very important. And one last thing, just to keep in mind, we do have some big earnings end of week as well. Watch out on Thursday and Friday. Delta Airlines, Progressive, Pepsi, and then Friday, the big bank startup. JP Morgan, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, BlackRock, and even United Health. We just talked about this earlier. They're like one of the highest weighted stocks in the S&P 500, so even they'll be pretty big.
There we go. If you guys, for some reason, are not subscribed to the Stocked Up YouTube channel, definitely make sure to subscribe. When you do, you'll see our videos recommended to you more often. We put so many hours into these videos just to bring you guys the best content possible. We skim through a bunch of data so you guys don't have to, so you guys can just watch this nice, we'll call it 25-minute video and have a good time. So if you want more of them, make sure to subscribe. Of course, it costs you nothing and you'll see our videos more often. And last but not least, we want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Ubi Moo. There we go. So you've been in the chat for over 3 years now, and you had a pretty solid trade with Boeing today. So awesome job to you, and make sure to keep it up.
Yeah, that was awesome. You know, Boeing had a great break. I know we were talking about that one and how it was trading in like a little channel there. So good stuff buying it off those lows and selling it up there around that resistance. Ubi, love to see a nice trade like that.
There we go. Well, besides that, guys, have a great rest of your night, and let's have an awesome day tomorrow.